I'll just summarize what, since the last meeting we had on Friday before the draft. Obviously, we went through the draft, made our picks at the morning on Saturday, acquired Kevin Hayes and a second round pick from St. Louis for future considerations. Today we moved Riley Smith to the Rangers for a second and a fifth round pick. And on the weekend, just an exchange of prospects with Tampa, Lucas Vejkoski for Bennett MacArthur. Signings as we stand here today, or at this moment, we have Matt Grzelcyk for 1 year at 2.75. Blake Lizotte, agreed to terms with him just before coming here, 2 years at 1.8. Anthony Beauvillier, 1 year, 1.25. We re-signed Emil Bemstrom at 7.75. And then we have signed Boko Imama, left winger, 27 years old. Jimmy Huntington, left center, 25 years old, to two-way contracts. And then on defense, Ryan Shea re-signed, two-way contract, and then two right defensemen, Nathan Clerman and Matt Caldwell, to two-way contracts. So it's been a busy day, as I said on Friday, probably not as extravagant as in years past or that we're accustomed to here, but that's the strategy and that's what we're going to execute on. So having said that, we'll take questions from the floor on where we're at and where we're going.
We'll start with Steph in the front line.
Kyle, Riley Smith, arguably your first big transaction once you joined the team. Why do you think maybe ultimately didn't work out for him here, and what went into, I guess, the decision as far as retaining some of the cap hit there?
Sure. I think just in terms of where we're at, I think, as I said Friday, our major focus is on trying to recoup future assets, draft picks, prospects, younger players. We had a number of conversations with teams that started the trade deadline. We elected to just hold, and then as this came along and thinking, we gave up a third to get him. This was the offer that was there. It was for the second, and then the fifth was essentially the toll for the retention. You get into the trade deadline and you look at it, and if you're going to move him, then you're just going to get the pick, and the retention is expected unless you're a third party broker. So that was the decision there to move it across the line. We have the space, and to get the two assets back after giving up the third was just an asset management thing. So,
Josh on the right.
Kyle, I know you said the other day that not to expect any long-term free agent signings, but you still do have some money under the cap. Do you plan on spending to the cap, and do you still think you can find someone impactful for this season, even if it is on a short-term deal?
yeah, I think we have two things on the go right now, Josh. The one is that we have the remaining free agents that are still out there that we're sorting through. On shorter term, as I said, we're gonna, unless someone really young shakes loose, we're gonna, Lizotte is the only player we've done more than a year today. So it would need to be somebody impactful and young shaking loose for us to go longer term. And I think we also want to keep our cap space open in case those opportunities come through the summer. Now, we're seeing already today, because we have the space and we have the approval on budget from ownership to go to that point, that we can use that space either to acquire good young players, or what we can do is we can use that space to acquire more assets, whether it's draft picks or young players. So all that, the Hayes one is an example. We think Kevin will come in and help. We know that it didn't go well or as planned for him last year in St. Louis, but he and the team, he comes available, and so we're excited to get to work with him. He's been an impactful player in the league in many years past, New York and in Philadelphia. So we'll get to work with Kevin, get him rolling, and look forward to that. But that's, we're wide open on what we want to do with that. We're just trying to keep it as flexible as possible as we get in through the end of the day. It's tough to be patient at this time of year, but we're hopeful it'll pay off.
Robert in the back right.
I don't want to get into sort of antiquated words or ways people view sort of roster building and goals. So I'll just ask directly, what is the on-ice direction of this franchise right now?
The on-ice direction of the franchise, Rob, is simply, we're not looking to simply squeak into the playoffs. It's to return the team to become a contender as soon as possible. Can we do that this season? Can we do that in the next season? It's hard to put a time frame on it, but this is obviously not a strip it down to the studs situation here. The people in the room are too good for that. It's trying to use every method we can to acquire future assets that we can then bring into the organization through the draft or through younger guys through free agency that we can bring in here and they can pop, or via trade or via waivers that can come in and support the core group that's here. What we're not going to do is get into the free agent quick fixes like some of the longer range things that we've seen today. If we had been in a situation where we had been a playoff team and close to being a contender, we would do that. But I don't think the appetite here is to try to get the team back into contention before the great players who've been here for so long retire.
Taylor.
What ultimately went into not qualifying PO, and is the door open with that at all?
Yeah, it's still open. The situation is fairly complex in that when you have an arbitration eligible player, the other players who don't get QO'd impacts the arbitration case. So if a number of players that are in that grouping don't get qualified, it leaves you just with the higher end of players, you put yourself at more risk. So as that information came to us as we went into yesterday, we had Buki had been in constant discussion with his representative. We had said this is what we would do, otherwise we probably weren't going to be qualifying. They elected not to take it, and they get to test the market out. Initially, with the number of similar players that were there, I thought it would be a slam dunk to qualify. But just as the situation changed, and we always have to be cognizant of that, we had to change course, and we used some of that money on Grislick this afternoon.
Dan towards the back.
Kyle, where does Kevin Hayes fit into your lineup? Do you project him out as a center or a wing yet?
Definitely as a center, Dan to start. That's where he's been. I think he can go between the two as most of those players can. But the key for us with Kevin coming in is I'll leave that up to Sully exactly where he slots. I just think it gives us another option there, and he's someone that can start in the defensive zone and drive. Well, last year the offense didn't pay off, but he can start in the defensive zone and drive play up the ice, which gives us another option to give a reprieve to Sid and Gino. You have him, we have Lars, now you have Blake Lizotte. So we have a number of guys in that realm, Panamara, Poulin coming, and so it's exciting for us there to have that competition, especially as some of those guys that I've named are on the older side. They'll probably let us move Achari to the wing where he's probably a little bit more comfortable. He can take right side draws, penalty kill, but Sully will do all that in training camp.
Weston, yeah.
Kyle, just how much is your comfort level kind of predicated on what you already have outside of the core of Sid and Gino and Letang and Carlson, but maybe someone like Drew O'Connor who gave you a lot at the end of last season, or Ricard McKellar who could have a bounce back season?
Well, with Drew, we're thrilled with Drew. I mean, he was a free agent signing by the organization many years ago, and he's developed extremely well. It's a great story. If you look, he wasn't one of these college free agents that had all 30 teams trying to have a meeting with him. He's come to the organization, developed really well with Wilkes, coming to the lineup, worked his way up here. So we're excited. He's going into this season here. It's a big season for him and for the team. He's versatile. He can play center in the wing. Took on a huge role in the penalty kill last year, which he hadn't previously done. So we expect him wants to take more steps this year. Excuse me. In terms of racks, I mean, I don't think everyone would admit that the year didn't go right from the beginning as it wanted to. Had the rough start, then he got injured, and then came back and was up and down. But I mean, I can only take the reports from Marty Lozon and the performance staff that he's had a great summer so far, which we challenged him to do when he left. And he's a great pro, and a lot of people's careers are defined by how they bounce back from seasons when they don't go well, and he's too good of a player not to have a bounce back. So I'm confident that he will, and I look forward to that happening. And he has to be the one that goes up and executes on it, which we expect.
Jason,
Kyle, I asked this knowing that it might not connect if you don't want to talk about you and Sid, but how much is Sid sort of looped in on the direction of this, and has he given any indication? Like it seems like looking a little further out than maybe you guys did last year.
Sure, I think with Sid, he obviously holds an extremely special place here, so it could be foolish for me not to keep in constant contact with him, let him know what we're thinking, and then as soon as we bring somebody in, let him know. He reaches right out to them. He reached out to the draft picks right away on the weekend, and reached out to the guys here today. So I think for me it's important with him, especially, and he's here every day as well. So there's lots of easy communication with him, and I think the best way to go about it, especially when we're going through something a little different than what everyone has been used to here since he arrived in 2005. It's the key is going to be clear communication and being very open about it and transparent, and it'd be foolish for me not to. So that's what we do, and it's so far so good.
Dan in the middle.
With signing Imama, is it pronounced?
Yeah.
He's fought a lot of the Metro Division's biggest heavyweights. Is that kind of why you signed him? Do you think you needed more toughness?
No, I think the key thing for me when we went through the film on him, Dan, was his ability on the forecheck. I think there's a little bit of, he's very effective there. And so it's, getting in the forecheck, being physical, separating people from the puck, winning possessions. It's not just fighting. I mean, obviously he's a very tough customer, but for us, there's a good player there as well, and he's proven himself with the American League. He's been able to come up and play in the NHL. And so we want him to come in, be a good player for us down there, help the young guys out. He's got a great reputation. He's been a captain in the American Hockey League before. So we're excited to have him. Obviously, if things get to that level, he can handle himself. But that's more of a ancillary benefit than anything else. It's forecheck, play physical, drive pucks down the ice, and put us on offense, get to the net, and make the other team unhappy.
Couple more, Robin back there.
Mike, sorry, Kyle, at the end of the season, there was speculation out there, some reports about other teams being interested in Mike Sullivan, and
Yep.
obviously he's your coach. You've talked about how that relationship has evolved in the past.
Sure.
Where do things stand now? What do you think makes him the right fit for this group, not only for the short term, but the long term?
Sure. No problem. I think, Sully and I talk all the time. We agree and we disagree and we work through it. And I think the relationship is just a year old, and it's continuing to form that trust. I try to be extraordinarily open and transparent with him about the direction of the team. That's what we talked about at the end of the year, and I wanted Sully to be fully on board with that. I think that it's always easy in sports, and I think it's become more prevalent of late, where when things don't go perfectly for the team, you start to, there's easy people to blame. There's the coach, the players, there's the general manager, there's any number of people. But for me, the key is that, with Mike and getting to know him over it's been 13 months now, his mindset is not one that's very stubborn. I know some may watch our team and have their own opinion, but he's extraordinarily open to all new ideas. So his mindset is always evolving. He's going out of his way. I don't know if you followed the presentation they did at the coaches clinic, but he's going out of his way to find different ways that people learn and how it changes. And to me, it's a very developmental mindset. So as we are going to be putting more of an emphasis on that at all levels here at the organization, and there's going to be a huge incentive for us to develop people, knowing that the head coach who's been a championship coach in the past is going to coach the